Okay, hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Talking Crap podcast. I am, as always, your host, Lucas Jackson, the life coach, and I'm joined by Jazzy Josh Porter.
Hello, we're back again for another week, and somehow we haven't messed up yet. I'm really impressed by that.
Well, we're getting better each week. Obviously, we're now on episode 3, so we're getting into the groove of things. I mean, we're still in the UK. We're still on somewhat of a lockdown scenario, but, you know, we're finding ways to have fun. And, you know, we've got a big episode this week. It's about probably one of the most controversial superstars in wrestling history, I'd say, really. We are talking about CM Punk. That is today's feature. We're talking about his departure from WWE back in 2014, and where we are now, 6 years on, would you believe it or not? But that's to come later on. Before that, how's the shed, Josh? I must ask. People were questioning all week, bugging me all week about this shed. How's the shed?
I'm impressed that seems to be the most talked about topic of our podcast at the moment. But not the things we talked about, but my shed. It's fixed. Any holes that were in it are sorted, the windows are finally on, and we've organised it all with brand new shelves as well. Everything that was out of it is now back in it.
Well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant
as well.
I'm assuming people will like this and will obviously probably ask more questions, but I had to get it in there. I had to get it in there.
On next week's edition, what's in the shed?
Indeed. We keep it going throughout the series. Well, look, we're going to crack straight into the news, I say, because we've got a big episode today, this week for you all. So some few quick news bits. First of all, we are doing an AEW week, which will feature a special AEW edition of our Talking Crap podcast, where we'll be dealing with AEW 1 year on. We should be joined by some guests for that episode, and we also will be doing AEW Double or Nothing, AEW Double Nothing predictions as well. But before that, you know, there was some rumours this week, and they seem to have been squashed, as they have now announced that Mike Tyson is going to present the TNT Championship to the winner at their pay-per-view. But there was talk, obviously, earlier this week of Sting being AEW bound, perhaps. It doesn't seem that there's much to it, though. It seems that literally his WWE contract has expired, which is normal, I guess, and that he is free to do whatever he wants. But it felt that most people felt that he was going to AEW to do something, particularly with the TNT Championship. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Well, what I've noticed is that every time someone's WWE contract expires or they leave WWE, everyone automatically goes, they're going to AEW, forgetting about every other thing in life. For example, CM Punk went to somewhere else. He did not go back to WWE. He didn't go to a different company. He went somewhere else, and we'll get onto that later, obviously. But yeah, there's plenty of things to do outside of WWE and wrestling in general. Sorry, I don't think people realise that there's other things to life than wrestling. But on the topic of people going to AEW, I believe it was either today or yesterday, but this is a ref, not a wrestler. A ref, a very good ref that I have followed the career of for years and seemed to go under the radar for the last 2 years. That is a senior referee from TNA, Earl Hebner. He was also in WWE and WCW, but I'm quite happy about that.
But he's done a few bits with AEW before, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he's officially signed with them now.
Officially signed now. Mm-hmm. It's odd they took so long to sign him. But yeah, Sting. It seems that we, for now, won't be seeing him, but you never say never. But, I mean, people need to remember, though, he is 61 years old. And so people on online comment sections, if you're talking seriously about him having more matches and feuds and rivalries, I think you need to take a look.
I don't see
He's 61 years old. Nor do I.
Yeah, I think his best run after his WCW run, personally, I'm going to have to go with TNA, because he was there a lot longer than he was with WWE, and
13 years.
Yeah, pretty much since the beginning, and he held all of their major titles.
Yeah.
If we're not including NWA era, because if you remember correctly, TNA first started up with NWA back when NWA was the actual alliance not just a separate promotion, because obviously back then their championship was arguably the most prestigious in the world, being challenged for in almost every promotion that you could.
Yeah, well, I'll probably offer the WWE Championship, but I mean, yeah, it just. I mean, I'm a big fan of Sting, but I don't think he'll be doing anything at Double or Nothing. Next to discuss is the Intercontinental Championship. Was held by Sami Zayn. It's been vacated because of Sami Zayn. He's choosing to stay at home because of obviously the current situation in the world. And he has been vacated the championship, and they have announced that a tournament shall begin on SmackDown. They haven't announced it in this tournament yet. So just very quickly, because we haven't got much to discuss about it, we don't know who's in it, but any kind of thing, do you think, I think they're going to go for, a tournament leading into the next pay-per-view is Backlash, with obviously the tournament final being at the pay-per-view, I'm assuming that's what they're going with. I mean, I'm not too sure who they give the belt to at this point. I think a favourite would be Jeff Hardy, but I would think that the internet would like people like Cesaro, perhaps, or even Drew Gulak, to get a chance. What are your thoughts?
I'm hoping that it's either Cesaro or Drew Gulak. I would have no complaints whatsoever if Jeff Hardy did pick up the belt, though, because I definitely think he should have at least one more run with a title in his career. Because obviously, him and Matt came back to WrestleMania, to WWE, and picked up the Raw Tag Team titles in the ladder match.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Cesaro or Gulak, because Gulak...
I think someone new would be nice.
Yeah, someone new.
Cesaro's not new, but he
hasn't had a singles title run properly in a while.
No, yeah.
I have noticed that WWE have done this a lot recently, though. I say a lot, they've done it once with the Cruiserweight title.
Yeah, I mean, this goes down to obviously more what's going on in the world, but I think ultimately, I think it's the right decision. I think obviously it is a big championship. We need it back on the show, basically. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with it, and if they have more information, obviously as we go into next week episode, we can discuss it in more detail. Finally, obviously the big news from the week was we're getting baby Becky, Becky Lynch, the former Raw Women's Champion of the belt. Oh, baby Seth, yeah. We're getting, she held the Raw Women's Championship for almost 400 days. She announced on Raw in a very emotional, I felt, angle. It's very emotional.
I'm not sure if it was intentionally emotional, though. I think it was just Becky's emotions got the better of her.
I think, she must have a lot going through her mind. Like, is this potentially the last time she's going to be a full-time wrestler? Because obviously, having a kid, is it impossible for her to do it when that situation returns? Especially as the dad, her partner, is obviously another main full-time wrestler in WWE. How are they going to make that work? But it was a very emotional angle, and I guess all I can say is congratulations to Seth and to Becky. And we at the Talking About podcast, wish all the health and happiness that comes with this stuff. And I think it was the right thing to do in this. So it just feels in a way that this week's been for WWE, I think, about being fresh. I guess it's been
a bit of a wreck, but it's also been a good wreck, something they'll come back to in a positive way, because so far 2020, I wouldn't say it's been their year, but it's been their creative year.
Well, I think the situation's forced the hand a bit, but I think as well, like, they've had to look at the way they do business and look at people they have. But overall, I think this situation now, we've got new champions being crowned. It feels very fresh, and I'm down for that. And obviously, we'll follow the situation as it develops.
Right, before we move on, can I just point something that someone else showed me out?
Yeah.
Becky Lynch is not the first Irishman that has been stripped of the title because of Seth Rollins.
Who's the other one then?
Finn Balor. Because if you remember correctly, he was injured in a match with Seth Rollins for the Universal title and was then stripped of it.
That deadly buckle bomb, eh?
Yeah.
Weirdly, how all that news links together. But anyway, that's it for the news. Let's get on with our main topic of the episode. Okay, so this week we are discussing the superstar known as CM Punk, and to help us discuss all the kind of ins and outs of CM Punk, his WWE career, including what's happened post, everything's happened post, he's left 6 years ago. We have a very good friend of mine of Talking Crap podcast. We have former DKW Chaos and Showcase champion, we have Vinny Daniels.
Hello there. It's a pleasure to be here. Hope you're keeping well, Lucas. Josh,
Yeah.
same to you. And as well, I've been listening to the show the past few weeks, really enjoying it. I've got one question. I was listening last week, and I need to know, Josh, did you get your shed sorted out? Because it's been good to my feet.
Someone else has asked the question. Lucas asked me that earlier. Like I said earlier, windows are in, holes are fixed. Everything that wasn't in the shed is now in the shed on our nice new shelves.
I'm absolutely made up for you, mate.
Yeah, we love the shed. If we can get the shed trending, it'd be quite helpful. But I mean, look.
Hashtag Josh's shed.
But look, we're talking about CM Punk, and obviously he's a very big name in WWE and in wrestling anyway, I'd say, in wrestling kind of history. We're going to start basically with him being he paved the way for a lot of indie wrestlers, because before him, I felt that WWE, they had failed a lot of the indie guys. They had, in the early 2000s, people like Paul London and Brian Kendrick, Paul Burchill, who was obviously very popular over here. They even had, at one point, Chris Harris, as remember Braden Walker, for a couple of weeks in the early 2000s. But CM Punk's the first kind of one who's kind of broke through, and obviously people like now, we've got like Seth Rollins, Adam Cole, etc. on the main roster on NXT, who I guess would kind of, you can kind of thank CM Punk for that. Would you say, Josh, that CM Punk's perhaps the first, sort of breakthrough superstar from the independent scene?
I'd say he broke the mold for indie stars in WWE. That's for sure. He I wouldn't say capitalised on it, but WWE certainly saw his potential and made use of it. Because obviously he had plenty of stints elsewhere, not just on the indie scenes, but now you're seeing all these indie darlings that are able to break through and become top stars either in NXT or the main roster. And it just shows that WWE don't just focus on the talent they've created, they focus on the talent that are elsewhere as well now. Which sometimes can be a downfall for other promotions, but it's just something.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of CM Punk signing, and I think 2005 he signed and went to Deep South Wrestling, and then got called up to the ECW brand. I think he was probably like the biggest success story out of that. What do you think, Vinny?
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd sort of echo what Josh was saying, and I think he's sort of one of the first people that they sort of recognised that had a sort of a history before WWE, in the sense, the fact they even let him keep his name, CM Punk. 90% of wrestlers prior to that, you had a brand new name, brand new gimmick. Everything you'd done before getting to WWE didn't exist. Even in the last few years, that's something that's now whoever they sign keep their name. You look at people like maybe sort of 4 or 5 years ago that joined, Finn Balor, he was Prince Devitt, but now every single wrestler that comes, they sort of keep that brand and recognise what they've done prior to getting to the big league.
Yeah, I think obviously as well as WWE, I guess they're looking for tape libraries to collate. I think they realise that it might be silly having all these different superstars, different names and that. But it's interesting because even as you say that, we've mentioned Seth Rollins before. Obviously, Rollins had a rebrand, from Tyler Black, and so did Dean Ambrose, from John Moxley. So there were still some examples of that happening. But I think CM Punk, he definitely was like the first, and there's people like Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. I couldn't imagine them being renamed, I guess, in WWE.
Bringing in Joey Samoa.
Yeah, Joey Samoa. But yeah, I think as well, like he was, he did a lot on the indies. I mean, I was kind of aware of what he did. Obviously I followed RH for a little period in the mid 2000s, but then when you really look at what he did, he was like the face of Ring of Honor for a solid 3 or 4 years. He was the main guy, in that promotion. He went to TNA as well. He had stuff in IWA Mid-South. Yeah, he had a very and so he wasn't just wrestling for a year or so on the indies and then went to WWE. He was by the time he got to WWE well established, which is very similar, I guess, to people like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, but back then even. In terms of WWE, he's kind of thing. I think, did he really get a fair run? That's the first discussion here. We've spoke about the ECW brand, and I think how obviously he was very pivotal in that kind of becoming the first kind of new wrestler to kind of become the face of that brand. Following the departures of people like RVD and Sabu very early on. But here's some stats for you. I don't even know if you guys are aware of it, but from his main roster debut, he went on a 6-month winning streak, was ECW champ within a year. He's a 2-time Money in the Bank winner, an IC and tag champ, which then made him be a Triple Crown winner. All by the end of 2009. So within 2 years, he had achieved all that stuff. He wrestled on Survivor Series, defended the ECW title on Survivor Series, had Survivor Series tag matches. And this is before we get to, I guess, the meteor stuff. Do you think, Josh, do you think he has a case to say he didn't have a fair run?
That's a tricky one. I honestly don't know. I think, in the sense of he had a good run, yes. Did he have a fair run? That's not really an easy answer. I'd say right. In the sense of, does he have a case? Yes, he has a case as how it was an unfair run, but so does everyone that doesn't have a gigantic push when they first start.
But then I'd argue that he had pretty much, if you tick box WWE, like the checklist, I'd argue that he had done like quite a lot within those first 2 years. He won championships, he'd been on like Survivor Series, he had been a world champion twice, won Money in the Bank twice. I mean, kind of what else was there to kind of for him to tick off? I guess in his first run as world champion, I think when he won the world championship off Edge, I think he kind of felt that he was being overshadowed by a lot of stuff going on. That first run as world champion is quite forgettable in a way. From JBR trying to make him drink alcohol, which obviously people who might not know, CM Punk is straight edge, so he doesn't drink alcohol.
Which is where the Straight Edge Society came from.
Yeah, well, yeah, that came after that. But I mean, his first 2 years, Vinny, what do you think? Like, was he used all right?
Okay, his first 2 years, you pretty much went over what he'd done. He had a good run, but overall, I don't think he's got too much to complain about in his whole entire run of the company. He was, if you include the ECW title, he was a 6-time world champion. He, like I said, Money in the Bank back to back. The only things he really didn't do was main event Mania, which was the big one that he wanted to do, and win the Rumble. He pretty much done everything. So I can understand. When you're shifting as much merch as what he was at the time, and he was white hot as what he was, to be overshadowed for a Mania main event, especially when he's having stuff like the original plans was, Batista and Randy Orton, who'd been there, done that. No one cared for that. You could see why he was annoyed. But apart from that, I think he hasn't got too much to complain about. I mean, especially when you consider Vince McMahon, traditionally WWE's always been, especially around about that time, with the land of the giants. He's a guy that's 210 pounds, who's had all of that. He I think there was a glass ceiling. He smashed through it, to be fair, on most part.
Yeah, I'd agree too. I mean, the difficulty bit comes, I think, after 2009. Like that's why I've kept that section kind of separate, because I think in terms of his first run, his first bit, I don't think any other wrestler could kind of debut on a main roster and get that much success so quickly. It's happened very few times, but it seems to get very messy when he starts his first stable, which is Straight Edge Society, and it got movement behind it, and they killed it off at the hands of the Big Show. And I think this is when his frustration starts to build. Because everything he kind of builds up, WWE eventually just go, right, we're going to build you up, and then one of our old guard are going to come back and beat you. And this continues, obviously. He was part of the New Nexus storyline as well, which led to basically him versus Orton at Mania. Very underrated Mania match, this. But essentially, it still was the same thing. It was like, okay, fine, we'll let you build up New Nexus, but we're going to basically embarrass your stable, and then you're going to lose to Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And I think he kept coming very close to kind of getting a Mania moment, getting that Mania main event, and it never kind of happened. And so by the time we're in Pipe Bomb Central, which is obviously, this is the meaty part now that we're getting to. We're in Pipe Bomb Central with the Pipe Bomb promo in summer 2011, Money in the Bank, which that's the kind of quintessential CM Punk moments, those. And it seems that they mishandled it. Like, Josh, do you think he came back a bit too soon, after he left the company, after Money in the Bank?
Not at all, really. I don't think he came back too soon. I think the people were, I wouldn't say craving him, but certainly people like me were anxious to see him back on the programme. He definitely. I think had he not come back sooner, he wouldn't have had as big an impact on the fans if he did.
I mean, I'm talking more of a story point of view. I think they had something going for them. I think at the time there was a lot of people saying that, he could go to Ring of Honor and defend the championship. He could, create his own show and defend the championship. There was a lot of interest, and they kind of just went, oh no, 2 weeks later, we've got SummerSlam to promote.
Maybe.
Vinny, what are your thoughts then? Summer or Punk then? So in that Money in the Bank kind of thing, was it handled right?
I think from a company perspective, WWE had to bring him in sooner rather than later, and get him back on board, because the last thing they want is, especially with all that speculation of when he's dropping that pipe bomb, I'll go defend it on Ring of Honor or New Japan. Yeah. WWE don't want to lose that market, and people think, oh, what's this thing? Is CM Punk going to turn up there? I'm going to go and watch that, and then lose some of their market share. So I think it was important for them to get him back on board ASAP. So you're like, okay, he's WWE, that's where the title's being defended.
Yeah, and I guess he became very... that's when he became really cool, I think, and when the fans really got behind him. And I think, looking at this, I mean, I'm going to explain this, obviously, because this was almost 10 years ago, and so obviously a lot of younger fans might not know this, but there was an absolute batshit period here, and I have to read it out because I remember it, but this is what happened in this time period. So CM Punk beat Cena at Money in the Bank. CM Punk leaves the company. Then do a tournament to crown a new champion. Rey Mysterio wins that tournament. Rey Mysterio, like a bloody bastard, like a fool, decides to give John Cena a title shot after an hour. John Cena's now the WWE champion. They then do Cena versus Punk for the Undisputed Championship, at SummerSlam, which Alberto Del Rio comes out and cashes in. Alberto Del Rio leaves the champion. A month later, they swap the belt onto Cena. Back to Cena. They then swap the belt back to Alberto Del Rio before Punk then wins it at Survivor Series. In between this time, Kevin Nash is showing up and feuding over a text message that I don't know why he didn't understand how texts work. You can quite easily find out who sent the text message. And Kevin Nash gets involved and meant to have a match with Triple H, and it then leads somehow to Triple H, because Nash couldn't get cleared, to Triple H, beating CM Punk at Night of Champions, when he was at the hottest he'd ever been. And when I'm as you know, Vinny, I'm a big Triple H fan, but even I was a bit like, this was the wrong decision. And if Punk wasn't half as good a performer as he is, I think he would have killed. He would have died there. But I mean, I can see this is where I think the mess he's talking about. It always kind of felt that, as good as he got, there was always going to be the kind of ultimate bosses of WWE, like Triple H, the Big Show, Undertaker, etc., that were always going to just beat him. And this was happening even at his hottest time, back in 2011. And with Kevin Nash and Triple H involved, I think it was just so much going on. And I mean, I kind of felt that he should have won at SummerSlam. Does anyone else agree? Josh, what do you think?
I wouldn't have minded if he won at SummerSlam. Honestly, I think it may have changed the course of that storyline for the rest of the year. But I also think he wouldn't have been recognised as that kind of... He would have lost his kind of rebellious aspect to him that everyone looked at him for. Okay,
yeah. What do you think, then? Should he have won at SummerSlam?
Who was the SummerSlam match with again? Was that Triple H?
No, that was John Cena.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have made him a lot. He would have been happier and further down the line. That would have been a big win over John Cena. That he could have been like, okay, I'm the man now. I think that was always his problem. He was outperforming everyone week in, week out, but he was never really being recognised as the man. And going back to what he said, Night of Champions, when he lost to Triple H as well, like he was so over at the time. He should have won that. I'm a big Triple H fan as well. But it's a case of sometimes when your face doesn't fit, you've only so far you can go. You look at people like CM Punk, even people like Zack Ryder, who haven't been chosen to get over, but they organically get over themselves. They'll find a way to just bring him back down. The thing with Punk is he kept delivering, he kept smashing the ball out of the park every time he had even a time opportunity. They couldn't hold him back until eventually he only got too much walked out.
There's merch sales as well. I mean, continue on the CM Punk vibe, but I understand, Vinny, you got some quotes for us. I think And we've got a guess. You explain the rules, actually.
Yeah,
Sure,
so
Ken, you
it's a little game of devise. I've got 10 quotes, so it shouldn't take too long. And you can take it in turns. And they're basically quotes from either current or former WWE wrestlers. And you've got to tell me if it was CM Punk that said it or if it was someone else. And if you think it's someone else, have a little guess of who you think it might be. I tried to think of a catchy name for this game, and I couldn't. So we're just going to call it Did CM Punk Say This? So, Lucas, guess if CM Punk said this. I always appreciate what WWE has done for me, and I'm on good terms with them now, and I'm pretty respectful of the company and whatnot, but I'll never forget what happened. Did CM Punk say that?
I'm going to go no. Seems too nice.
Who do you think said it?
Does it be a question that is in now? Maybe someone like Brett's better, isn't he? I'll say Brett.
Oh, mate, Bret Hart is the correct answer.
With Bret Hart? Oh, okay.
With Bret Hart. That was a shot.
I was guessing that in my head.
There you go, fantastic. 1 point to Lucas. Right, we'll move over to you next, Josh. This next one, when asked, will we see you return to a squared circle? This person responded, not a chance. Never, ever, 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 ever. Did
I
CM
remember
Punk say
correctly. I'm pretty sure that was Punk, but he may have been lying.
that? It was CM Punk that said it.
Ah.
Lovely. So we'll move on to the next one. You, Lucas.
Okay.
Quote is as follows. And I looked at Vince in the eye and I said, I do not love this anymore. I'm fucking sick. I'm fucking hurt. I'm fucking confused. I don't know as a business what we're doing anymore.
I'm glad I don't have to censor any of this.
I think it is CM Punk.
Final answer?
Yeah.
That was CM Punk. So 100% for both of you so far. So the pressure's on now, Josh. The next quote. I just walked out and told Carano, take me off this fucking TV show. I'm done. I never saw Vince. I didn't want to see him.
Is that another Bret Hart quote?
It's wrong. That is Ryback.
Ryback. I would never have gotten that because I don't really know much about Ryback after he left, or before he left rather.
I miss Ryback, to be fair.
Yeah, he did legally change his name to Ryback though, in order to keep it.
Got to get them booking fees, right?
Only way to get away from the trademark.
Exactly. Next question for Lucas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the quote is as follows. I just had enough of the business. It was the road, it was the people, everything. I was becoming this person I never thought I'd be. I felt trapped. I felt like a trapped animal.
No.
Who do you think it is?
I can't think of anyone. Top of my head, let's think of who's left. Maybe Dean Ambrose?
No, it was Brock Lesnar.
Ah,
In
okay.
a rare interview.
Fair enough.
That was before
next
he
one.
came back as a part-timer.
Yeah. Exactly. So we're halfway through. This one for Josh. Here's an interesting one. I will go somewhere else and I'll get more fucking over because I know I can.
No, that was not CM Punk. I don't know who it was though. Do you know what? I'm going to go with John Moxley, Dean Ambrose.
It was indeed CM Punk who said it.
Really?
Yeah, so that was when CM Punk was on the Colt Cabana podcast and he was explaining what he said to Vince when he left. So he was saying to Vince, I'll go somewhere else, I'll get more over because I can.
Oh, in my head I was thinking because he said
like
he'd never step back into a squared circle, that wouldn't have been something he said.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think he's definitely got the desire to get back in.
Yeah.
So next one for Lucas Jackson. Tell me, who said this? Was it CM Punk or was it someone else? Bottom line is, everything sucks. I'm not happy with the direction I'm going. I'm not happy with the direction the whole company is going. I think the writing has been substandard. I'd even go on record to say it's been piss poor.
Wasn't that Batista?
You go with Batista?
Yeah, wasn't that Batista?
It was wrong. I mean, it's not CM Punk. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Ah, was that after he walked out in 2002?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And he went WWE Fight This, which was
You
weird.
got the
It's
year
an
right.
official WWE thing. Okay, next one for Josh. Okay. And I was like, for fuck's sake, you're going to make me walk away from all this money, because it's not like I didn't want the money. I was like, yeah, I want it, but I'm not going to do that shit again.
Oh. Right. It's not CM Punk.
Correct. Who do you think it is?
I'm stuck with this one. Right. I'm stuck between Ryback and Rob Van Dam.
Neither of them are correct. The correct answer is Dean Ambrose or John Moxley, whatever you want to call him.
Finally, there he pops up. Yeah.
So I've got two more quotes for you, one each. This next one's for you, Lucas.
Yep.
Here is the quote. A week after I left, Vince texted me. How you feeling, pal? You ready to come back to work?
That was CM Punk, I think.
That was CM Punk. Well done.
Yeah.
And final quote for Josh. Here we go. I stopped because it wasn't fun for me anymore. It seemed as if I was going to work every day and I didn't have a smile on my face. And for me, that was doing something wrong.
I actually remember who said this, but I can't think of their name. It wasn't CM Punk, was it?
It wasn't CM Punk.
I watched this interview. Oh my god. It's not a female wrestler, I don't think.
That's correct.
So you've narrowed down
narrows
to
it
one
down.
gender.
No, I haven't narrowed it down to one gender. Remember, it's 2020, it could be anything. It could be a frying pan for all we know. No, I give up. I'm just going to go with it wasn't CM Punk.
It wasn't CM Punk, that's correct, but it was your main man that you done a podcast on. It was Goldberg.
Ah.
There we go. Yeah. Well, thank you for playing. I hope you enjoyed that. Josh, if you could edit it, catch the game show, nice and music in.
I actually have some from
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that because I mean he said basically, let's get to that though. So he's done quite a lot. He's said quite a lot since he left. Essentially, some of those quotes weren't he, but some of those were he's in that section, and he said quite a lot. And we're at the situation now where he left in 2014. We're now in 2020. Like, firstly, I mean, I'm asked a question. You know, Josh, do you think he was right for upping and leaving in 2014?
In a business aspect, no. I think it didn't really hurt his gimmick, but it did kind of spoil it for the fans a little bit. But in the same sense, I think in doing what was right for him personally and getting himself in the correct headspace and place it wanted to be, I think, yes, it was.
Okay. What about you, Vin?
I'd have to disagree with the saying that, you know, it was wrong on the fans, because I think it was the correct decision for him on multiple levels, because it's similar to, I agree with Josh in the sense, you know, if it's not right for him as an individual and your heart's not anymore and you're fed up, you've got to do what you've got to do and you've got to walk away. And I think it was times really well, to be fair, because he wasn't in a feud with anyone. The last time we saw CM Punk on TV was at the Rumble, with Kane pulling him out and choke slamming him through a table. That was it. He wasn't in the middle of a feud. He wasn't advertised to be on any shows. He wasn't advertised to do any, you know, events. So I think that was really the perfect time for him to go.
I think as well, like, people forget that obviously we've had a few of these before. So like we've had, obviously, mentioned Stone Cold before. You know, he took his ball went home in 2002. You know, we've had Shawn Michaels losing his smile in 97, and even Ultimate Warrior, you know, holding up the company in 1991. And those three, well, particularly Austin and Michaels, they are, like, you know, considered the best of all time. Do you know what I mean? Hall of Famers and, you know, beloved by the fans. And so I think to kind of put CM Punk, you know, to kind of dislike CM Punk for that is, from a fan base, is pretty shitty. But unfortunately, we know some fans are like that. I think personally, like, he should have maybe held on. But I guess, you know, I've been there with jobs and in I think we've been there with relationships too, where it's not working. Like, what can you do? You're just holding on for what? And I think while it wasn't perhaps the best timing, I think obviously it was right for him. It was right for him. And we are where we're at now. Like, obviously we spoke, like, CM Punk, like, he has been considered one of the best world champions going. Like, he's still got the second longest world championship reign of the last 30 years. You know, he even turned heel halfway through a fucking title run, which is unheard of. he really elevated himself in 2012, and he held the championship for the entire year. Worked programs against Chris Jericho, and Ryback, who he obviously contributes a little bit to him leaving. And yeah, I think it's interesting, like, overall. But where are we at now? So, like, at the moment, so he has a Fox deal, which means that he doesn't necessarily work for WWE, but he obviously is closer to people in WWE. But then he also obviously has been kind of exchanging tweets recently with Ospreay on Twitter. He's friends with a lot of the AEW lot too. So, like, he's 41 years old as well. So he's not not young, but we have seen an older, obviously, wrestler in the WWE recently. So I'm going to go to you, Vin, first then. Does he ever return to wrestling in any capacity other than the one he's in at the moment? What are your thoughts?
100% he does. 100% he does, and he'll come back to WWE.
Think for a match?
Yeah, I think he will. I'm not necessarily ruling out that he might show up in AEW first, although I don't think he will. But I think eventually he'll be back at WWE, just simply because everyone does. Everyone comes back. Brett came back. Stone Cold come back. Hogan come back. Warrior come back. I mean, the big one for me that I can't believe is Jeff Jarrett. Even like, that's unbelievable.
Got TV. Poor guy.
Exactly.
Fired on TV and comes back and there's a match on Raw, the same show he was fired on.
Exactly. And like that match was like beyond salvageable. And the amount of people have said that they're never going to come back. He has to come back, and I think he's more than worthy to go in the Hall of Fame. And and time is a great healer. He'll be back, and I think he'll probably have a match or two. He won't come back full time. Maybe he might have like a 6 month to a year run where he does 2 or 3 shows, even a Saudi show. If they throw enough money, I mean,
it's the thing.
He can come back, and I think he will. Especially when we go back to some quotes I was doing earlier, and that one where it was on like a red carpet for a music event. He goes, "I'm never ever 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 coming back." And he said it with a smile on his face, as if to say that will get the internet talking, because I think he knows deep down he probably will at some point.
Yeah, I think for me he's a bit of an enigma where I think they'll have to go a different route to get to him. I think they might have to use a route. I mean, Bruno Sammartino spoke about it, that it wasn't it Lynn? No, it was Stephanie, wasn't it? Triple H reached out to him. Sorry,
yeah.
And obviously he fell out with Vince, and then even Warrior, it was Linda who reached out to him. So perhaps they might try that. 'Cause I know he's obviously not friendly with Triple H, and I guess there might be some hatred between Vince. But will he maybe take a call from Stephanie or Paul Heyman even? As Paul Heyman is running Raw, with the promise of maybe basically a live mic, which I think is what CM Punk would be best at. But yeah, Josh, where do you see it? Does he return in any capacity to wrestling?
I think probably. There is definitely a high chance that he'll return, but he doesn't need to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I think he will still be forever in history books. He will be talked about in wrestling for years to come. So even if he doesn't return, I don't think anyone would kind of look at it negatively.
What I'd say as well, if he's going to come back, he can't expect to come back and have his finished the unfinished business of main event and WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I think if that chance was ever going to happen, that ship sailed. Like you said, he's 41 now. They're not going to invest that position in someone of that age. They've got younger talent. I think if he's going to come back, it's going to be for one-off matches. I don't think he can expect to be the main event of Mania if that's what he's looking to do.
Kind of like Big Show, where Big Show just returns here and there just because he feels like it.
Yeah, but he's been employed though all this time. I mean, and he's been somewhat involved. I think another one that kind of goes under the radar a bit here, and some of our viewers, listeners have said it, is what he went to NXT. What if he didn't want to do the main roster, didn't care about Mania? He's got enough money, and he wants to have the matches. He wants to face Adam Cole. He wants to face Johnny Gargano. He's mentioned these people on backstage. He's mentioned these people obviously online. People he communicates online with tend to be the kind of more indie people in WWE. Does he just go, look, I don't really give a shit about getting a massive Mania payday. Let me just wrestle Adam Cole for 30 minutes.
I'd love to see him do that.
There's a lot to it, but I think as the years go on, it's 6 years now. Does it get? I mean, obviously, both Vinny and myself had breaks from obviously in-ring competition, and you feel it. Do you know what I mean? When you come back, and that's only been a few months, maybe a year, I think, for you, Vin. But could you imagine 6 years, especially at now you're 40? and it does get harder. So I mean, I'm leaning towards that he will return, and it will be to WWE, but it will have to very much be on his terms, and I think we'll have to find some other way, kind of around it, personally. So let's get some final thoughts then. So, I think we touched upon it already. I think we're all kind of the same mindset of that. He definitely has done enough already. But final thoughts on CM Punk. We'll go to you first, Vinny.
Yeah, so I think CM Punk, he's a legend, and I think he can be more than happy with the career that he had in WWE. He went away, he wanted to do UFC, got his ass handed to him, but good luck to him. He wanted to do it. He give it a go. You can't
made more money than we did, though. We have by doing that.
Yeah, but yeah, he's done that. He does. I think he writes for Marvel now, doesn't he? Or he does that, which is a big comic book fan. I think eventually the time will come. It won't be a case of money. I think he'll want to come back because he does. Ultimately, he's like the three of us. He loves the business. He loves wrestling at heart. I think he will come back, and he'll have like a year on at some point, and then he'll go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Josh, same question to you then. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like. It's hard to explain what I want, but it doesn't matter what I want, obviously. I think it can't hurt for him to come back for a little while, have a few matches here and there, and then go into the Hall of Fame, like Vinny said. Because you'll notice, as we mentioned on last week's episode, quite a lot of people that are going into the Hall of Fame tend to have a few matches or have a few appearances beforehand and then go into the Hall of Fame. And in the sense of UFC, yeah, he probably made more matches more money in the 2 UFC fights that he did in the entire of his career in WWE, but
not entire.
But he probably made more money in 2 matches than he did in half of his career then, because UFC pay out a lot, and I mean a lot, just for an appearance of a fighter without even winning.
They are well paid. I mean, I'd agree that perhaps he was at that time he could have made more money for a UFC match than he could with a wrestling match. Yeah. But obviously he stock plummeted because he was shit at it. To put it nicely. But anyway, final thoughts, Josh. Final thoughts.
Simple. Come back to wrestling in WWE for a little while, go into the Hall of Fame, then maybe stick around as an on-air personality.
Fair enough. So there we have it, CM Punk. But before we depart, we have have what we're calling the Pipe Bomb Promo Challenge. Mr. Porter will explain this as it is his idea. So over to you, Jelly Joss.
Yeah, pretty simple. Seeing as you've got a CM Punk episode, and this is our first episode with a guest, and this is a challenge I designed for guests, we're debuting the Pipe Bomb Challenge. See, I've got a catchy name, Vinny. It's pretty simple. Vinny, you have 1 minute to perform a promo based on the 2 topics that I give you. Does that sound simple enough?
Sounds good.
Yeah, right. So, Vinny, for a maximum of 10 points scored between myself and Lucas, your 2 topics are: you are challenging for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam against Jeff Hardy. You have 1 minute, starting now.
SummerSlam, the biggest event of the summer, and it's going to be me versus Jeff Hardy for the Intercontinental title. And guess what? I'm going to win that title, and I'm going to show it to the whole WWE universe, and they're going to remember the name of Vinny Daniels, the Hooligan, and they're going to say Chaos Champion, Tag Team Champion, Showcase Champion, and now Intercontinental Champion. Biggest party of the summer, Vinny Daniels. There's going to be a woman on my left hand, a drink in my right hand, and the Intercontinental title around my waist. And Jeff Hardy will be laying there on the floor, watching me as I go on to bigger, greater things. This isn't just the Intercontinental title. This is the start of my ascent to the top, and I'll be your future WWE champion.
Very well done. Very well done. Do you know what, Lucas? You can go first with this one. I'll just let you know that he was at the 50-second mark, so just shy of the 1 minute that he had. So, if you would like to give us your score out of 5.
Okay, so I'm going to score that because I think we obviously very early on and we could have better to come. I will go with a 4. I enjoy that though. I enjoy the enthusiasm. I'll go with a 4.
You're a good man, Lucas.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to have to agree with that. You were pretty much on time. You weren't over, and you weren't under by much. This is weird. Normally you're scoring my promos at training.
I was going to say, I appreciate the feedback of the seasoned vet there, Josh. Thank you.
Now I'm scoring yours. Content was good. Timing was good. Enthusiasm, as Lucas said, was good. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the 4. So,
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No worries. On the scoreboard, that places you right at the top, but it also places you last. Because there's no one else on the scoreboard yet.
Fine, I'll take it.
But look, that was talking crap, everyone. That was Vinny Daniels. Thank you for joining us, of course.
Thank you for having me.
And like we said, we are going to be doing these every week. We've got episodes coming up very soon on the invasion angle. We've got episodes coming up on the ruthless aggression era. And we will have our AEW week where we do predictions for Double or Nothing.
AEW.
And discuss AEW 1 year on from their first pay-per-view. You know, where are they at? And so we want, as always, your feedback, your thoughts, your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. I've been Lucas Jackson, the life coach. He's been Josh Porter, and we shall see you on the other side.
Bye for now.